You know, I don't know. I was kind of the new kid in town, you know, and I came out and I did a Cheech and Chong movie right away, and then I
jealousy. I
hosted a series on Nickelodeon called Out of Control. Well, and
luck, timing,
for whatever reason, I just worked really hard. That's all I had. I knew that there were really talented people out here, and I knew that what I was up against. And I just thought, I just have to just keep working as hard as I possibly can.
How did you get in the door? Because you're saying, and also what voices, because I love the Jetsons. Like, that's so cool. Like, how did you get in the door? Because I think that's what they were asking.
Well, there's a lot of doors.
Yeah.
There's not just one door, and you have to knock on every single one of them, and you can't be afraid to get the response from any of those doors, because most of the time, you're going to fail, and you can't be afraid of that. And now I do a lot of college stand-up dates, and I speak to students, and they always want to know, what's the magical formula? And I said, hard work. And they're like, well, what does that mean? And I said, well, you can't be afraid to be a big failure. I said, you're looking at one of the biggest failures you've ever seen in your life. You know my successes, but there are so many failures along the way. So I started doing seminars calling Failing Your Way to Success. And I said, you have to be able to look failure in the eye and say, okay, gotcha, moving on to the next.
Like in sports or whatever, you got to fail before you succeed, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's really what it's all
about. And no one teaches people how to fail.
Right.
And that's why I think sports is actually a great metaphor for kids, because it does teach them how to lose. And I think every kid should be playing a sport, because it really is kind of a great learning platform for later in life, when people just go, nope, sorry, you're not talented enough, you're not good looking enough.
Dust yourself off, go right back at it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice. What was auditioning for Full House like? Was it multiple auditions or?
It was one audition, and I was auditioning for everything, and I was supposed to be on the last episode of MASH, and I missed that.
Wow.
And I went in on that several times, and then I auditioned I did a screen test at NBC for Saturday Night Live, and my manager, Brad Gray, who later, became chairman of Paramount Studios, he was my manager. He called me up after I did my screen test at NBC, and he was like, Dave, you're going to New York. I just got off the phone with Lorne Michaels. And I said, oh man, this is great. So I told everybody in my life I'm going to New York to be on SNL, and I got rid of my apartment in North Hollywood, and I told my family and boxed up everything, and it was a huge thing. And so then I was supposed to find an apartment in New York, and I'm getting ready to leave, and a few days before I was supposed to leave, Brad called me back. He said, hey, you didn't get the show. And I'm like, what? He goes, Brandon Tartikoff thinks you're a little too close. You look too close to Dana Carvey at the time. And I was just crushed. So I had to call everybody back in my life and say, I didn't get it. I'm not going to be on Saturday Night Live. Had I gone and been on Saturday Night Live, I would have never received the script for Full House.
Now, when you
I would have been in New York.
When you did Saturday Night Live, did you go to New York right in front of Lorne and do all that stuff like every?
No, I actually met him at a hotel here and did my bits for him one-on-one in a hotel room. He wanted to see what I was going to do for my screen test. He was like, "That's good, Dave. Okay, that's good. That's good. I like the Randy Newman. That's good. That's good." And so I did my screen test, and I remember the last thing I did in my screen test, I took my shirt off, and I do this thing called a dying walrus, which just sounds like a giant hand fart. And I rolled around on the floor, and I remember hearing everybody in the control room cracking up, and I thought, ooh, I got a big laugh on the way out. And so, that was a monumental fail. And then 7 months later, I was shooting the pilot for Full House.
And that's the thing, the universe made you miss that
to get that. Everything happens for a reason.
Thank
That's
you,
amazing.
Universe.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that was a miserable season that year on SNL. All the actors and the comedians were miserable. I heard about it, and they were like, "Thank God you."
You know why? Because you weren't on the show. Yeah, that's how it works out, buddy.
Yeah. So
they had told all their friends and family that you were going to be on the show, and then when that didn't happen, they were so upset and
fail.
Do you have a favorite episode
of Full House?
Yeah.
And I hate to admit this, but I really have never watched the show. But I'm not kidding either. when my son was growing up, he used to call it Daddy's Show. He'd say, "Can I watch Daddy's Show?" And I'd be like, "Finish your broccoli." So it was nice having a TV show that I could, use. Yeah, I could use against
your
my son.
benefit, yeah.
But I've really never watched the show. I'm the last person I want to watch. And so I get very uncomfortable watching myself. It's just my own personal whatever. But I have memories of shows, and I remember the hockey episode was one of my favorites. I remember one scene where a cement truck backs up into our kitchen and pours cement into the kitchen, and I'm wearing headphones, and I'm supposed to be in some kind of like trance. And I know that was a really funny scene because I remember the laughter from the audience that night.
So when you got Full House, did you have to go to the network and do all that stuff? The audition and then...
We really didn't. It was John Stamos and I were the first two that were picked for the show. And John and I ended up auditioning with a ton of actors who wanted to play the father. So Miller and Boyette were very powerful at the time. And Jeff Franklin, who created the show, was partnered with them.
And a great guy, by the way.
Jeff. Yeah,
we love Jeff.
He's a brother for sure.
He's the greatest.
And so they were positive that John and I had this chemistry, and they said, these are our two guys, but we can't find the father. So we really never had to go to network. And I had been auditioning for ABC, so they knew my work, and they'd seen me.
Wow. Is that ABC?
Wait, hold on.
What is that? Hold on.
I have
like a spaceship or something.
I have a spaceship landing, and they're coming to get me.
ABC wants you for another show.
Well, it's called absorbing my brain. They're getting my brain siphoned off.
Edit that out, so take it.
Oh, really?
Okay.
We're that sophisticated here?
Heck yeah.
I love it.
What happened?
No, it's crumbling off. Let me just see your mic. Let me see your mic back there. Let me just make sure it's not just
Technical difficulties, guys.
Oh my
that are
God.
watching this live right now.
It's
amazing.
All
right.
Good.
So we'll take it back to about finding the father at ABC. People knew you.
Yeah.
People knew you. Yeah. Are you ready?
I have.
Tell me when you're ready.
Are you gonna ask a question?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask Dave. Okay. I'll start by just saying. So
father.
Dave, about the father. No, they knew you at ABC.
Oh,
That's and then we'll go. And then you'll say the father.
Okay.
Let me know.
Ready.
So they knew you at ABC. So did you have to audition or?
I didn't have to audition. The people at ABC, the casting people, had seen me in the Improv and the Comedy Store, and I had auditioned for other shows and didn't get them. And so they knew me really well. Right. So when Tom Miller and Bob Boyette said, John and Dave are our guys, they just said, yeah, of course, great.
That's awesome.
Did you know John before that?
I met John across the street with Jeff Franklin across the street from the Improv, and we had lunch, and Jeff wanted to introduce us. And John got in a car accident on his way there that day.
Whoa.
And then John called Jeff afterwards and said, that guy's he's the comedian on the show. He's the most unfunny guy I've ever met. When's he going to be funny? Because I was just there and I was just like, okay, I'm taking it all in,
Yeah.
John was already, well known as an actor, and so I was quiet. I was just kind of taking in all the information, and I didn't want to be this funny guy like, hey, look at me, man, boy, it's going to be crazy on this show. Crazy, I'm telling you. But that was John's takeaway from that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But the rest is history.
Yeah. So are you guys all like a family still?
We are so close, it's ridiculous. We've never been apart. It's really crazy, but we've been through births and deaths and marriages and divorces and drugs and alcoholism. I mean, you name it. We've gone through what a family goes through, but through thick and thin, we've remained together, and they really are my family.
Dave, you and I are always straight with each other, and Lauren is my buddy, and she is the host, the face of the show. But she always had this crush on you, but she always wanted to be
You're embarrassing her now.
Alanis Morissette.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she wanted to ask you a question about it.
I wanted to ask about Alanis. I was going to get there later, Brad.
Way later. Tomorrow?
Wow. Boy, you went right in there.
He went
It's a good
right.
segue.
I told Brad. Brad was like, you got to tell him that you had a crush on him. I'm like, what? I'm
It's
like,
okay.
it's awkward.
I have a crush
I
on
know
him.
you do. I know you do.
Yeah.
Romance.
Embarrassed.
So I want to know about Atlantis. I have to know about Atlantis.
Well, she's one of the most talented and lovely people I've ever met. She is really, I don't think she gets enough credit for how wonderful her sense of humor is. And I think that's what really attracted us. I am a hockey player. I was playing in the Heroes of Hockey game in Montreal. And it was at the All-Star game that year. I believe it was 1991, possibly. And I'm standing out on the ice, and we're playing at the Montreal Forum, and it's completely full. And here comes this beautiful girl out that they introduced to sing the national anthem, the American and Canadian national anthem. And when she walks on the ice, I'm standing next to Gordie Howe, who was my childhood idol. And she walks out and she gives me this big, beautiful smile. And I looked at her and I smiled back and I go, Gordie, I wish I wasn't wearing a cup right now. and Gordie had the greatest line. He goes, you know, if you lay down on the ice face first, that'll go away.
Great. Oh my God,
Quick. So after the game, I went out with my buddies. I got food poisoning and missed the entire weekend, right after the game. I went out of the hotel. On Monday, I've got to start back up on another episode of Full House. In my room for the last 2.5 days. She's like, you're kidding. So we start talking and we hit it off. She goes, and then this big snowstorm came and we just hit it off.
Wow.
And we were together almost 2 years, but our lives had really grown apart. I was a new father, newly divorced, and I really wanted to be there for my son. And here I've got this girl, not just in another state, she's in another country,
right.
a couple thousand miles away. And, you know, we tried to make it work. And she was lovely, you know, a lovely, lovely human being. But in my life at the time, it was not the right choice for me.
And the right timing.
Yeah.
So
Was not, yeah, she said to me, the last thing she said was right person, wrong timing, right? And I said, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, so did she write the song for you? Was that?
You know, that's such an urban legend now, but when we were together, she was writing all that music.
That's amazing.
And so we would make jokes like, hey, I'm going to dead fish you, and it was the dead fish handshake, and there's this line in that album, your shake is like a fish. And I know what the bug you in the middle of dinner thing is, because she called me and I said, hey, can I call you right back? I'm just in the middle of dinner, my son was little, and I'm feeding him, and I said, you know, and so I hate to bug you in the, but
That's pretty cool.
yeah, and just, I have nothing, I have so many wonderful stories to tell about her, of nice things that she did, and funny things, and good things that I will, you know, I'll never, I never saw that angry female.
Have your paths ever crossed since then?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's nice.
Many years ago after, but this was after she was already just kaboom, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was quite lovely.
You talk about your son. How old is he and what does he do?
My son Luke is 28.
Wow.
He's a captain for SkyWest Airlines.
Oh, my goodness.
And
That's great.
he's 6'4".
Wow.
Plays hockey just like Dad. Plays golf just like Dad. And
Face man just like Dad?
A what?
Face man? Good looking guy like Dad?
He's a good-looking kid.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank goodness his mom was there. Yeah. But
That's nice.
he's a great kid, and we talk every day, and I couldn't have a better.
Yes.
There's America's Funniest. Vic is the guy that comes out before Dave comes out, but they've got to laugh when I need them to laugh and have that energy for, what, 3 hours that we filmed?
Wow.
It was long days.
It was a long days, and we did this, and I loved what I did because Dave made it so much fun for me, and Dave and I created some bits with the writers and everything, and then they would leave, and I'm like, wait, stop, everybody, stop, please. And Dave, could you put your foot up here, please?
Yes.
So Dave, I would lean down, lean down, take the hanky at him, and I would go like this, and as I bent over, Dave would do this. And then everybody would just start crying, laughing, and I'd be so embarrassed and I'd run off. Every time we did it, we must have done it 110 times.
Everybody loves a fart joke.
Everybody
loves a fart
and
joke.
it was just organic, and great.
It's physical comedy, and you did so much of it on Full House, which I loved.
I did.
Was it a natural? Were you always physical in your comedy?
Yeah.
natural?
I think visually, and someone tripping on something, and they don't get hurt, just makes me laugh every time.
The Three Stooges.
Even when they do get hurt,
Yeah.
it makes me laugh. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Three Stooges. I loved Three
best.
Stooges growing up, and physical comedy, and Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin. I loved, all of that kind of
Now
stuff.
there's so many episodes we could talk about. I could talk about Falls for hours right now. So there's
Right.
the wrestling one. So did you really wrestle? Like, did you really know how to wrestle?
No.
Because it looks good. Yeah, it looks good.
No, there were so many things that our producers didn't know about. They were like, we want to get you playing hockey on the show, but they knew nothing about hockey. And John and Bob are not athletes, so they'd be like, can you show John how to throw a baseball? Or can you shoot a basket so Bob knows how to shoot a basket? And I'd go, Bob, come on. You look like my aunt right now shooting a basket. Dave, stop it. And I'm like, you get it.
Yeah.
So I always had to teach those guys the sports stuff.
Okay. So you got the last season of Fuller House, and by the way, you're directing now.
That's so cool.
Yeah, directing some of the shows, which has just been a great challenge.
I just had some sort of a storyline. I would think somebody very close to me right now should be on the show Fuller House, maybe.
Really?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
just thinking maybe we'll have to talk about that later. What do you think about that, Dave? Yeah.
Joey's love interest.
Joey's love interest.
There you go.
Okay,
Joey's love
We'll
interest.
talk about it. We'll develop it.
There
and
you
we'll
go.
do it this season because this is the last season.
Yes.
What other projects do you have in the works? What's going on?
Well, now that I've moved to Detroit, I've connected with a lot of filmmakers and people who are doing television back there, which is really inspiring. In fact, there's a documentary you should check out, produced by a woman named Jenny Fiterovich, and it's called The Russian Five. And it's streaming everywhere, and it's a really great documentary. The New York Times just raved about it. And it describes the high and low point in Detroit when 5 Russians defected to the United States, played for the Red Wings, and then a terrible limousine accident damaged one of the players right when they won the Stanley Cup. 42-year drought. They get in this accident, so it goes from here to here.
Oh, that's
and it's really a compelling, beautiful story. It's well done. So I've connected with those people there locally, and I've got a couple of movies. One's called Santana Claus. It's about a Mexican who saves Christmas.
Oh, nice.
So we want to shoot that there, and then I've got another movie. I got on a Christmas binge writing Christmas movies. Another one's called Santa's Shrink.
And you wrote it.
You wrote it.
I wrote, yeah,
Oh,
I
wow.
wrote
Both of
both
those.
I wrote
Oh,
both
that's
of these.
awesome.
And then I have another movie called Janet of the Apes. It's about a girl who's she's covered in hair, and it's a funny story.
Yeah.
And then I have a show that I'm developing with Invent TV out here called Little Stinkers, and it's a prank show where kids prank adults.
That's
Oh, that's-
awesome.
oh,
That's
my
really
goodness.
cute.
And I would host that. So we're putting that together.
Do you need a warm-up guy on that?
We'd have a warm-up guy.
Oh, really?
We'd have a warm-up guy.
Oh,
I want to shoot it in Detroit though, at a studio
really?
there. So you'll go to Detroit?
I can't.
I'm on the bus.
There you go.
You're leaving?
No, I'll be back. I'll be back.
Just for when they shoot
We
the
need
show.
we got to stay together, Dale.
For a little
Yeah.
while, anyway.
Yeah. Dave, this has been amazing.
Yeah, it's been so
God.
great. Thank you so much for coming. My favorite episode is you with the cats. The cat commercial one.
Oh, Kitty Crispies.
Did you write any of that, or did you go around and when you were fixing
John
their
and
hair?
John and I improv'd a lot of stuff, and that was one of those things where we kind of improv'd, and the improv built the story and built the bit. So.
That was really a great, really funny jingle.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's-
really,
Yeah,
really.
that was a fun one.
It's probably going to be touching the last episode of this
Yeah.
season. This is it, huh?
Well, we don't know if this is it because
Oh.
there may be Fullest House.
Yeah.
Oh,
See,
of
I told you
course.
it was never going to end.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right.
The show
Yeah.
has done so remarkably well. We've never been off the air since we premiered in 1987. And
Wow.
the show, we won the People's Choice Award, Kids' Choice Award. What's the other one? Kids' Choice, People's Choice.
Critics'
and
Choice?
Critics' Choice. We won
All the
we were
choices.
nominated for an Emmy this past
Yeah.
season. So the show is really strong.
It's
and
kind of like the
audience-
Brady Bunch of today.
It is.
You know?
Yeah, and it's a family, and people just love seeing this family together. So
Yeah.
who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
I can say one thing. I've been in the business a long time, and you meet all sorts of people, and Dave's had so much success. It couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Yeah.
Dave, you
Thank
really
you.
are. You're good people, man.
I'll
You're
take
good
it. We
stuff.
can hang out anytime.
All right, appreciate that.
Oh, you wanted to do before we left. You're going to teach everyone
Oh,
the correct
Dave,
way
could
to
you
do
go
cut
right
it out.
into the camera and
Yeah.
give when everybody
Direct-
must come up to you? This camera right here, and yeah.
A lot of people get it wrong.
Yeah.
People will come up to me in the airport. I had one guy come up and he was like, "Hey man, knock it around," and I was like, "Cut it out." And he's like, "Oh, you got it." Like somehow I was going to mess up my own bit.
Right.
So it's just real simple. It's cut, and then you point,
Point.
and then you go out.
Oh, I like
All right,
that.
That's how you
let's
do
do
it.
it together.
That's awesome.
Cut it out. Dave
Yeah.
Coulier, everybody.
amazing.
Oh,
Thank
my
you.
goodness.
And I see on your website you're selling cut it out T-shirts. It's really cool. All
Yeah,
cut-
we've
you can
got woodchuck
hats
shirts and all kinds of silly
all
stuff.
amazing.
And what is that
amazing
website? What is that? Where people can?
DaveCoulier.com. I don't know how
Okay.
I came up with that, but
Oh my God!
I brainstormed.
You
for a
are a
while.
genius.
Yeah.
You are.
Brainstormed for quite a while on that one.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Any tips for any last tips for people who want to kind of come out here and just move to LA?
And be an
do
actor or
it?
comedian.
Just work really hard. That's all I've got. That's
Yeah.
all I can tell you is you have to outwork everyone, or everyone. You know, they're not giving sitcoms out at the corner of
Yeah.
Sunset and Vine.
And a lot of people come out here and they give up, but the work ethic
Yeah.
and just keep pushing. Don't give up. You know.
Well, you see all these internet stars. You know,
Yeah.
and it happens from
Yeah.
their garage or their
Right.
bedroom. You
Right,
know, and it
right.
just. That's 1 in a million, and so you have to really come out and put the work in. You want to go on every rung of the ladder,
Yeah.
and learn something at each level, and that takes hard work.
Yeah.
Hard
Thank
work.
you so much for coming
Thank
on.
you.
So awesome to meet you.
Oh, God.
So awesome. Everyone, make sure you follow him everywhere. It's D Coulier, right?
DCoulier.com.
At
I'm sorry.
Instagram.
DCoulier at
Instagram.
Instagram.
DCoulier Instagram.
Twitter.
However that works.
Yeah.
You'll find me.
Yeah, or you
right.
can watch on Netflix, right?
We're on Netflix. We're on Hulu. Full House is on Hulu and iTunes, and I'm sure it's running right now
Everywhere.
somewhere.
And of
somewhere.
course, the last season of Fuller House on
We're doing
on
18 episodes. this
18.
season.
Wow, that's great.
That's awesome.
And which number is Lauren going to be on? Oh, I'm sorry. I just keep pushing.
Well,
that.
it might be several.
Oh!
We didn't.
Hey, cut
We
it
didn't,
out!
we didn't talk about your episode though.
Oh, my episode, yeah.
Brad's,
They can see
Brad's
that.
on
yeah.
it, guys. So you guys got to go watch Brad on it.
The disgruntled Giants fan. It was a great time.
I was so shocked by your character there.
Yeah, I'm a nice guy, but I'm an actor.